but fines are large enough and consistently given for out-of-district residents, there would be a decrease in non-authorized dumping. Implement fees for South End County residents and use that fee to provide services through another waste hauling services. This will also decrease out-of-district dumping. The changes that have been implemented were done so even after residents voiced their opposition to them. Many residents offered alternative solutions, but the only change was keeping the Raidersburg site open. Residents did not want change, but were willing to meet in the middle if they could have reasonable access to Canada site. This did not happen. Please reconsider the solid waste plan and send it back to the board for a better plan. Sincerely, Kathy Wilcox, Stockton, Montana. Okay, Corey, you're up.
Thank you. Does it matter that mine says Commissioner Delger?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yours is probably different than mine.
And I got a few more up here if anyone wants.
I was trying to be organized so that works out.
I like starting this with the last, so thank you.
Look at this, we're right here.
Oh,
So we're presenting ours together. You want us to just start talking?
Yep.
Okay. Well, the first big issue, and it's my first section, and it's the majority of Brooke's budget issue, is that her office, specifically her salary, has been funded for the last 2 years by a Board of Crime Control grant, which is nearly all of her salary. There's some county in-kind contributions consisting of office space and contribution for health insurance. Does that sound right? There are some additional budget items that she has and supplies and other things, and then there are some surcharge funds that come back through state reimbursement that also are used for some of her supplies. Well, so the big issue is that the Board of Crime Control's initial grant recommendation is significantly lower than what it was the last 2 years, to the point where there would be about $30,000 per year shortfall. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Now, one of the things we've learned since this happened is that, and you'll see it's an attached document with Brooks. Jump in at any point.
Okay.
Is that there's a lot of people that were shortened across the state.
Be this document here. This is everybody who submitted a grant, and I'm fairly confident that no one got funded what they were asked. And in fact, some people didn't get anything.
Some people lost big amounts.
Huge.
So since this initially came out, I think maybe even a week later or something like that, we were notified that there was a second federal disbursement that came to Board of Crime Control. So there is now much more money available. We don't know how that's all gonna shake out. So Brooke appealed. The board meeting is on June 14th. We're gonna go to it. I think there's gonna be a lot of county attorneys there because a lot of offices are affected by it. So anything you wanna?
No, that's basically it, that's kind of the process right now, it's kind of an unknown, but I have appealed it, we've appealed it, and then we'll go to the public discussion at the board meeting on June 14th, and then we'll go from there, but it's kind of the unknown as to how much more they will fund.
And you're certainly invited to that if you wanna come to it.
Yes.
Always. I'll forward an agenda to you guys.
So coming out of that meeting is probably when we'll have a much better sense of where this is gonna end up.
You won't have a decision out of that meeting or what?
Not sure. What do you think?
Yes.
There will be?
We will.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, there's been an awful lot going on in the background about this. I'm sure
Uh-huh.
you're aware. I know the
Yeah.
County Attorneys Association had quite a few discussions. I've seen a couple of letters.
Mhm.
Also, I talked with Brent with Congressman Gianforte's office yesterday, and he has an email he's going to forward me that says that Montana was funded in full. Based on that, there should be no reductions. So
Oh, okay,
I'm hoping to have that for the 14th meeting as well.
great.
Okay.
This is important, and it's not just important to you guys and to Broadwater County, but it's important to everyone across.
Yeah,
the state.
statewide.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that first section of my budget deals with that issue. why don't we cover the rest of yours?
Okay.
While we're on it, on the subject.
Okay. So I basically just submitted the same budget as I've had, really no changes, because I don't foresee any big changes. The grant that I actually submitted prior to, there was, rumors out there that there was lots of money, so if you needed something, ask for it then. So I did put in my grant for some new equipment, but at this point, that's obviously off the table. So, everything else though is just the same as I've had it.
You do have a reduction here in travel? No,
Um,
what do I see? I see $1,000 less for travel. Is that an error?
Yeah, that'd be an error.
So you want a 1 in front of that?
Yeah, sorry about that, yeah.
That's all right, I'm glad I asked.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be a big difference.
So, a question I have for you, Corey. As you know, there are a number of people whose counties are affected on the board of crime control.
Yeah.
What if all of us recuse ourselves, as I do on that board? I guess we'll have Attorney General Fox there, but is there provision for us to be able to advocate for our counties when it's essentially the entire board that's affected?
Well, who's your guys' legal counsel for the board?
Well, it'd be somebody at Department of Corrections.
Okay.
Their
I'm
department.
wondering if you guys have an internal operating rule that deals with that, since, the
That would
majority of the
be
board is a public official at Summerina, right? So like Wyatt Glade, he didn't get funded at all.
Right.
So he'll obviously recuse himself from that one, but doubt that he would for other issues, so. That's a good question.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about it till just now, but I will ask to have our legal counsel there with that question asked beforehand, so that,
Yeah, that's probably a good question.
yeah,
Because there's a lot of people got affected.
oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Any questions on this stuff?
Nope, not for me.
Do you wanna talk about well, in a minute, if we talk about the software, then
Okay.
we might talk about yours. So, going to my budget request, the next big issue is the Barris prosecution costs. I have attached a couple of pages. I think they're the 2 pages after the memo, and these are all documents you've seen before. It was an email from me to you about a month ago, just kind of with the current update. So we're still on track for that. I've requested, I think around May 15th, I don't know the exact date. No, actually, I think it was May 8th or 9th. I requested a warrant for a $20,000 payment to that bill. So there was, at that point, and that hasn't been paid yet, so there's about 24,000 in that fund right now. So I'd like to pay that 20,000, there's been 3,000 to 4,000 left. There's a, transcript for 1,700 that I submitted as well. If we get that paid, then that leaves me with basically 1,500 or so, 2,000 maybe in that account. So in the memo, I discussed kind of the same issue, that our plan is to, we're talking to another sheriff, another government, that they may contribute something. I don't know what they would contribute. We've kicked around the $25,000 amount, but I can't at this point commit that, or say that they're gonna commit that. the sheriff has and I think he's here, has some funds that are from not last year's budget, but the previous year's budget, in the Mason Moore Memorial Fund, and that's 19,000. So I think the plan is that we would contribute that 19,000 plus another 1,000 from the current Barris litigation to do another $20,000 payment on this expert witness bill. Preferably this month or early July. And then, depending on whatever the contribution is we might get from Silver Bow County, we'd met earlier in the spring, and I know the AG's office attorneys met with each of you privately, and the plan was at that point to request a $100,000 pilt each year that were in the litigation. That pilt for next budget will then pay off whatever's due on this expert witness. And then, as we've talked, our expectation is it's going to be at least a year, potentially longer, before we start having to go through another battle of the experts. That'll give us a chance to not only pay this off, but potentially put a little money in the bank to prep for that. So that's kind of where that is. I am also requesting that we continue the part-time legal secretary for the additional workload. And that's about, it looks like it's about 5,000. If you look at page 3 and carrying over into page 4 of my memo, I listed all the specific line items. With the last two, I just put 110B and 350B because there's a whole lot of numbers that go ahead of them, but those are the Barris wages or the Barris professional services contribution, just so that's clear. Okay, so next issue. So the case management software, we've been trying to locate a software system that would both be affordable and also work for prosecution office. There's a lot of, almost every county attorney is battling this issue. The big counties all have a system called Justware, and it's great, but it's really expensive. They won't even talk to you about giving you a quote unless you're going to bill over $50,000 a year. So that's obviously out of our price range. There's two systems that are both really affordable, that are considered really good. One is the one I'm interested in. It's called Prosecutor by Carpel. And the third and fourth page after the memo is a price quote from them. And there's another one called Full Case, which is kind of the other half of the full court software system that the court has. The problem with that is that it's more cumbersome, and it's also it's going to be more money. It's going to be probably $6,000 to $7,000 more than this price quote that I have here. So here's my plan to put together some funds to pay for this. One is this system also does the victim advocate grant reports that VOCA grant recipients have to submit. This is where I'll turn it over to Brooke.
Yeah, so it does work with this system to create those reports, to get them into VOCA and OVC and Department of Justice. It also helps me do my tracking that I have to, because I have to do different reports. One is to the Department of Justice, the federal part of it, and then I also have to do quarterly reports to the Board of Crime Control. So it can help me create all of those and keep all my statistics in place. Then do you want me to talk about the grant? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I don't know, what it was, about 3 or 4 months ago, maybe longer than that, they had some funds available that was strictly for software or things like that. So I did submit the grant and did get the amount that we had asked for. So they are giving the office $7,360 to go towards the one that Corey talked about, the Prosecutor by Carpel. I think if I needed to change that to a different software, I think that could be pretty easily done. I just have to spend the money by the end of September.
So the last 3 pages of my packet are those grant documents that Brooke got. And part of the issue is the software that they've used up to this point is being discontinued. So Brooke has to find another software. And so that kind of gelled with what I was doing. I've been working with another county attorney who's kind of a leader on this to find a system, and everybody that's either small or mid-range counties like us is fighting this battle. And there may be a long-term solution, but I mean long-term, 4 years down the road, where the state might get involved and do a state contract for everybody. But the last time we tried it was 12 years ago, and it didn't work, and no one's picked it up since. So we don't have faith that it's actually gonna happen, so.
So that was one of my questions, I guess. So this software from Corporal is still well supported.
Yeah, and so here's what's going on in the court world. The state court world is moving slowly to a electronic filing system, okay? There's a few pilot counties that are doing it. Lewis and Clark County and Broadwater are in the first judicial district. We are it will not happen this year. We're not sure if it would happen by the end of 2020. But our system is compatible with that, this system that I'm looking at. In fact, you don't even have to have a case management system. Case management system helps you feed all your documents. It's a lot quicker and more efficient in how you produce all your documents. It'll pull all of your law enforcement stuff from their system directly in, save a ton of time and money hand carrying over and burning disks and all that. And then we can set up an electronic discovery where the defense counsel can literally log in to like a file share, and they can download my whole case that I give them, and then we have a record of exactly when they did it. It's gonna simplify a lot of things. And that system is compatible with the new electronic filing system that they're gonna do. But we don't know when that's gonna happen for us. I think 2 years is likely. The court's also doing a system where they're upgrading, but they have a system called Full Case, and it's several generations old. They're implementing a thing called Full Case Enterprise, which is a much more robust, modern, user-friendly version. Again, this court is a couple years out because they're fighting through the bugs of other courts as they do it. But again, that system is not incompatible with the system I have. I spent quite a bit of time with the court administrator's office at the Supreme Court talking through what they're doing, and this system works with what they do, what this future project will ultimately do.
So this that's the cost for everything? You don't have to do anything special with your servers, or there's no additional cost down the road after?
So if you look at those 2 pages, one proposal, $2,700 of that is the annual fee. So the upfront cost is $19,550 minus $2,700. The second page shows the operating system requirements that you need. So the other thing I've done is I've held back from rotating paying for some computer upgrades because money was tight last year. So I'm a year overdue in replacing my computer. We're at least an overdue replacing Sherry's printer. Potentially, I'm not sure where Brooks' printer is. They're not. My printer's really good. Theirs are not. So what we've been able to do is save a little bit of money, where through the grant and through the reimbursement of my military salary, which is this document, then we can pay for most of it. And then the leftover at the end of June 30 this month, the leftover money I have will pay for the balance of that, and we believe allow us to buy a computer, possibly 2 computers. So trying to do that rather than put that as a new cost for next budget. So the only thing that would be the increase for next year is that $2,700, and we'll break that down by subscription. So $550 of that will be paid out of Brooks' budget because she's one of the subscribers. So it'll be $2,150 that I'll have to have in my budget. And that's the next section that I have in that's really the only increase that kind of jumps out at you in my line by line. That's in page 3, and that's line 330, publicity, subscription, and dues.
Do you anticipate any CIP needs?
Well, so no, there's gonna be a savings there. If you go to my last page,
Okay.
I inherited a system where I had a separate computer server because in 2013, the Montana Department of Justice was starting a technology initiative And they did it for DOJ. And I worked at DOJ at the time, so I know about it, where they required prosecutors to have a completely separate computer server than other state agencies. They were anticipating making that a requirement for all the counties. They never did. Somewhere around there in that discussion, before I was here, our office purchased a separate server so that we were in fact set up separately from the rest of the county. That server is now 5-6 years old and close to its replacement time. So since then, I've gone back to DOJ. They did not implement that requirement. DIS is the tech support for like 6 other county attorneys. We're the only ones that have a separate server. So we don't need to have a separate server. So instead of paying another $5,000 to replace a separate server that I don't need, whenever that time comes, DIS can migrate me into the county server and build a firewall internally so that nobody else can access it.
Right. Okay.
The sheriff still needs to keep a separate system, as they are, but that's because they do a lot of things that I don't do. So that's a savings down the road. That's the only CIP thing I could think of that would have been in my arena of needing. So. The other thing on 330 is the state bar increased their dues. The County Attorneys Association is increasing their dues next year. Lexis research costs went up. And then every year we have to purchase some new resource from the state. In 2019, it'll be the new Montana Code Annotated books because of this session. And then the following year, they finish the annotations, which are all the case law updates. And so might be able to save some money by only purchasing the electronic version rather than the paper version of that one. But I won't know that till I know their costs next year. Nobody can tell me their costs right now. So, and then rules of court, I haven't purchased the rules of court since 2017 because there's minor changes. One of these years I'm gonna have to purchase a new set of those. And then I haven't purchased, the desk book is only $60, but I haven't purchased that one since 2017. But they're doing a major revision to the rules of professional conduct and the rules of judicial conduct this year. So I do need to purchase the new one, probably January. So I included that. It's about $60.
Right. And the law library, I know that kind of caught me off guard last year, right?
Yeah, that's included in that now.
Okay.
And so, and right now, we're a little over, there's 4,000 there, and we're a little bit in the red right now. I think we're $400 in the red, because Lexis increased their costs again, but that's included now. And I guess speaking of which, we've got that little room up there we call the law library. The only thing that's in there now are some leftover books that we use there, and it's mostly, that we put there, it's mostly a meeting room. It's used pretty regularly, but there's no point paying for book subscriptions other than the actual state code books, so. And then a long-term thing, just to maybe a discussion is my last section here, is electronic storage. DIS has the service that they will provide where they'll come in and do high volume of electronic storage to allow people to shred and get rid of old files. As we implement this system, we're gonna begin, we'll automatically eliminate our need for old closed files, because every new file will be electronically stored. What we're gonna do over time, I think, is go back and try to capture old files. But I believe there's somebody else, and I don't know who it is, in the county that has a need for a large amount of storage. And I know DIS said they have kind of a high volume way of doing that. Or if we get some, I don't know, high school interns or something, they wanna run a shredder, or not a shredder, but I guess a scanner then a shredder. I don't think it's something that needs to be done right now, but it might be something down the road that everybody benefits from.
And they'll have the ability to index this as well, right?
Yeah, they have an indexing, they basically, I think you work that out on the front end, how you want things indexed, so.
This would be something to coordinate with Doug on. He just had some people here, a week ago,
Right.
on something very similar. perhaps DIS is the best, perhaps this other company, I don't know, but if Doug's doing it, you need it,
Yeah,
there's an opportunity
It
for
was
real
Doug.
savings.
yeah. I think his need's probably a lot larger than ours, but we do have, back in their evidence room, or in their, next to the evidence room, we got some old filing cabinets that are pretty well bursting.
You got like 14 of them.
Yeah, so, and so what we do is we keep a file, at least 7 years past the last appeal, the last revocation, the last whatever, expiration of the sentence, we'll keep it. There's a new requirement that got passed this year for all cases involving any kind of sex crime, is I have to keep them for, is it 25 years?
I think so, yeah.
25 years. So that was also a factor in saying, let's go to this software system now so we can have electronic backups. So
Sure.
they didn't fund that one, by the way. And it's not just our cases, it's anything that Child and Family Services gets
Any investigation.
in our
involved.
county. Any investigation report, anything. So it's gonna be much larger than what would come to me as a case. Gotta keep it for 25 years. And I have to file a twice-a-year report with the Attorney General's office on everything I'm doing on every one of those. So,
What do you think in your mind, how far back would you wanna go to do some of this electronic storage? You probably don't wanna do all of it, but a specific number of years that probably you'd wanna do.
there's two schools of thought. One is, don't do anything in the past,
And
just
start-
start now and go
start
forward.
Okay,
And eventually, over the next decade, we will retire and get rid of all those old files.
okay.
That'd be the simplest.
Probably the simplest and least expensive,
Yeah.
right?
If we do need to go back, we would pick certain cases that we think are potentially gonna come back and we'll deal with again. And we would just do those. So like under any scenario, Diana Lewis, I'm gonna save that whole file, because she's got an 80-year sentence and every 5 years something comes up with her, so. So, that's where we are.
All right.
So I did not specifically ask for a litigation fund. Kind of, if you recall, our agreement and our kind of discussion last year was basically if something unusual happens in a case where an expert witness is needed, then we'll address it on a case-by-case basis. The line item. The line item 350, professional services. What I'm recommending we do is we combine 398 and 350 under just 350. And that would be $3,500. That's gonna cover, well, depending on how complex it is, a DNA test, maybe 2 DNA tests at an outside lab. And then how this works with expert witnesses is we get a reimbursement partially. What was the one that we just did in Mark County? How much was that?
The bill itself,
Yeah.
I didn't actually see the entire bill itself. But what happens is that they submit it, the bill itself, and then Val would be able to speak better to this, but doesn't it, doesn't go through the clerk court pays it?
There's a partial
Yeah,
reimbursement.
partial reimbursement that comes back on if they are expert witnesses and have actually been subpoenaed to come to court. It's just a process that you have to make sure
So
you
what,
do in order to get the reimbursement.
and so what happened with that one is that witness came and did a trial in Mark County and the next day a trial in Lewis and Clark County. So the two counties split the cost of airfare and some of those things. So it did reduce the amount of it that was owed. And then they're submitting reimbursement, so they'll get something back, so. I guess it's
It's a lot.
3,000 to 4,000
At least,
per
yeah.
county.
Yeah.
But every year we have 3 or 4 of those cases that if it went to trial, we would have to have one of those expert witnesses. Any thoughts on this?
So if you purchase this software, that'll pretty much take care of the savings that they asked for.
It would use up all my savings
All your
and,
savings.
yeah. And so just to be clear, so what I would need to do is we would need to pay that amount, that 9,000, the 9,630 from my military salary,
Right.
but then that would reimburse to you throughout the year,
Okay.
is what I would like to do. And I would like to do that by June 30th, actually make the purchase. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Some of these things, I think like postage, for example, over time postage is gonna go down. It won't go away entirely, but a lot of what we mail is packets of evidence to defense witnesses, or defense lawyers. So by doing the software and the electronic download, it eliminates some of that. It eliminates some of our office supplies because we'll be buying a lot fewer discs and printing less paper and all that. But it'll take me a year to figure out really where those savings are. Probably the biggest thing we're gonna see is a time savings and an organizational savings. Any thoughts?
That for me?
Looks good.
Thanks, I know you guys worked hard on that. So,
So what do we do if we don't get any more funding from the Board of Crime Control, the witness advocacy?
Yeah. So then we're asking for 30,000 a year.
Yep.
So that would put us about back where we were 2 years ago, before her grant was fully funded.
Yeah.
That the county used to do two-fifths,
Yeah, the county
and
used
the
to.
grant did 3/5.
Okay.
And what I was told, it was just kind of a general conversation I had with the director up there. She said, I would go back to your budget in 16, and that's probably about where you're at. And I went back, and that was about what I got then as well. So the last one that I applied for was like the one I did before, that was fully funded. So,
I think it would actually be 2/5 grant and 3/5 county, wouldn't it?
it might be.
Yeah. I mean, so the score, 2 years ago, what we did is we did a regular grant and we got a score where we basically didn't qualify. We did a appeal and redo and then got it. So this time around, her score was really high.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a matter of that, it was a matter of
The money's
everyone's
just not
cut, so
there.
we're all gonna feel the pain.
So we should know more, I think we're gonna know more the 14th. So I don't know if that's another meeting, obviously, to discuss that. And there's other things out there that, I mean, I'm looking at, but they're kind of down the road that wouldn't probably be helpful to right here and now.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you very much.
So, I'm gonna do a final demo on this software, and if we think we're gonna do it, before the end of this month, I will submit, all that stuff, and so you'll have it at another meeting, probably a decision and warrant to pay that. So I don't-
That was part of that grant money you got, gonna contribute,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
But this
Seven.
is a separate grant.
Separate,
Yep, it's
yeah,
a separate
separate
grant.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but she
And I
did
can
get a
just
grant for
do that right away.
over 7,000 that will
7,000,
go directly to this software, so. And so if we don't do this, then we still have to find something for her to submit
By the
her.
end of September.
Right, yeah.
All right.
Doesn't sound like a bad problem having to spend money, but I do. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We lost one.
Okay, sheriff's office.
Hey, can we take a 5-minute break?
No, keep it. Stick to the Christ. Yeah, if you need one, you can.
We're gonna take a break.
Yeah.
You gotta run.
Need to run down the end of the hall.
Yeah.
Run. Run, Forrest. Run. You don't wanna step up here too, Cap?
You're good.
Short time. That's right. Just here to make sure you get a fair deal.
July 30th.
When's his last day?
Huh?
When is your last
You
day?
haven't told me.
Probably be the 16th of August. Don't forget I'm on vacation the 1st through the 10th of August. So much. Yeah, that's true, you are. You're all on vacation, aren't you?
This is your copy, this is for everything I submit.
I don't like it. You would do the same
You keep
thing.
track of what happens.
If I had the ability, I
There's
would
a
have,
mirror mine,
but I didn't
and then
have
I
the
just
ability.
courtesy copy.
Okay.
There's.
See if these fixed. We're not the same as they were the last time.
The same.
These ones are 2.5.
3.9. I think it's a 3.9.
I was talking about these ones.
Oh, yeah, 2.5.
These ones are, right? This one doesn't change them. That one should have changed with this, right? This, or
Right there.
no, so these are these ones are the 2.5 numbers, right?
Yes, all of it.
Even that one?
Yeah,
Well, that one didn't change. I figured that one would change because it's on that one.
that's fine. That's mine.
That's what, yeah. I just figured that. I would make sure, 'cause that one's.
That's where I'm.
Do you know this?
Kind of, we can share.
Shit, you wrote it. Hey, Darryl. When was that? You sent out an email like last month on long-range planning.
Yeah,
When's that gonna be done?
long-range planning?
Yeah, for buildings and,
Oh, the CIP.
yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be kind of ongoing, and I spoke to Brandon just a little bit earlier. We're just kind of actually just getting started, but we want to include, you know, buildings, vehicles, all that kind of stuff.
What about generators?
Yeah. Yeah. And I did talk with Mike on that, and he gave me a reasonable explanation. Have you talked with him?
Yeah, I had,
But, yeah.
I had some of that frustrated
Mhm.
conversation. So,
Yeah.
that's a huge problem,
Mhm.
huge problem, so.
And then, you know, the idea is, once we identify those needs, then we figure out how we're gonna go grants and all that, to try to get them funded. So, yeah, don't forget, whatever you think you need, you know, that's what it's
Just dawned on me this morning.
about.
I haven't got a chance to go back and find it.
Sure.
Are we ready? Okay, go ahead, gentlemen.
All right, so, I don't know if you had time to read through all that, but, I tried to, the first part, that you'll see the increase in is the, cost of living and in the wages. I tried my best to implement, the 3.9 in there to see if we could, just so I know about where I'm gonna be. So talking to Debbie, I did that to the best of my ability. However, I feel like I'm probably off because that's extremely difficult. But I think it's pretty close of what to expect. And that's and then the next difference you'll see is moving the in the sheriff's administration wages, moving the captain position and the sheriff's assistant into that line item, just so we can get a better cost of what it actually looks at, what the cost is, and funding the detention center, and moving forward with our plans with that in the future. So I don't know if you guys just want me to keep going or if you want me to pause and you have questions.
I say keep going.
So, as you can see in what I submitted, we did recognize some savings, which as you go line item by line item, you'll see the ones that are reduced. Some aren't reduced all the way, some are reduced by minor amounts, whether we just got lucky that year or we're actually seeing some good cost savings. So, and we did that by switching some vendors. We updated technologies just to be more efficient. And we're extremely conservative this year with our spending. Some of the fuel and maintenance increases are reflecting basically the deputy sheriff position that we added in place of our open detective position in the Three Forks area. That's going to require more fuel than a detective would and more maintenance in a patrol vehicle along with equipment, things like that. The biggest expenditure that we're looking at this year is a request for 2 patrol cars to be replaced. We have a need to stay on a rotation, every 2 vehicles every year. We're looking at roughly $84,000 to replace 2. but the state bids haven't gone out yet that I've seen, so hopefully that.
You gonna piggyback on
Hopefully not.
state bids?
We try to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you tend to see pretty good, about a $4,000 reduction, so.
Okay.
However, some of that money I would like to use to upfit the vehicles. That's just getting the vehicles, then upfitting them. We can use some of the older equipment, cameras, radars and such. However, cages and things like that aren't gonna be transferable because like Ford's changing their Ford Explorer again, and they'll be longer and wider, so those cages won't fit center consoles and things like that, so.
Sometimes you don't know who's gonna get the bid, right?
Well, you can, well, there's
To the state.
Sounds
a
like-
state bid for all three brands. So
Yeah.
there's one for Ford, Chevy, and Dodge.
Okay.
But like when we bought the 18 Expedition, they changed the body style. So nothing that we ordered, they even built. So we had to wait for a grill guard to get developed, for a cage to get developed. Everything that went inside that vehicle, there was nothing for it. And so, of course, it's the first, and it's expensive. They made it, so I think our outfit on that was with 16 grand, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's a chunk of change to get equipment put in the car, but not much we can do about it, so. And everybody keeps changing their body styles every so often. It doesn't, I mean, it's not helping. I mean, there's things that are static that aren't too bad. Your camera, your radar, it doesn't, those really don't fluctuate, but you start talking about lights and then cages and things of that nature. Every time they change body style, it changes what we can use, so.
So when we look at the expenditure side of things, with all our savings and at the same time increases, we're only looking at an increase of roughly 80,000 from last year's budget to this year's. Where it gets tricky is on the revenue side. We have a goal to meet your guys' goals, and we want to leave the mills the same value as they are this year, and just go off of that. Then whatever that increase is would help our cash reserves, and then our goal would be for that to be a smoother process, so on June 30th of every year, we would already know our expectations and predictions for our budget the next year, and we would pretty much be done. And whatever happens in September would be an increase, which would just go into our cash reserves and help that out until we reach your goal of 33%, and then start funding the CIPs after that. The next is the inmate revenue. We did increase that with your help to the $67.95 a day. Everything looks like it's gonna be fine this year with Lewis and Clark County. However, we have seen a decrease on our smaller counties that are around us that use us. Thankfully, with the help of Carbon County now housing their inmates here, we've made up for that. Although Carbon County is coming to do a tour because now they want to build a jail, so that doesn't help our situation, but we'll work through that. That's quite a ways down the road before they get that done. So we dropped our inmates by about 5 beds a day. What we're doing to be proactive with that is we're working with Stillwater County in the very early stages, trying to get a meeting with the sheriff down there and undersheriff to come up, do a tour, talk about transport costs and what we could do for them, and possibly save them some money. They currently house in Yellowstone County for a higher rate than what we're at, so it sounds promising as I talk to their undersheriff, but until we get the head guys in charge talking to each other and a meeting and tour of our facility, that's not a guarantee yet, so.
And
Would-
logistically, and just to kind of add on that, just because logistically, when you start talking about people short term, you're not going to want to take somebody from Columbus, Montana and bring them all the way up here if they're going to jail for domestic violence. So they're still going to have a relationship with Yellowstone County regardless. It's closer for them for those domestic violence or protective violations, those things that only if they're going to spend the weekend, they're going to get out that following Monday. And so you're not going to want to transport them all the way up here and go get them and transport them back for court. So, or release it or what have you. So these are gonna be more of their long-term folks that are sitting on high bonds that are gonna be, consistently in jail for a period of time. So more of your felony cases and people just, they can't bond out because of their crime, those are the ones that are gonna be. So they're still gonna have that relationship and how to make that work, is obviously, right now they're paying for, a certain amount of beds every day, regardless if there's an inmate in it or not. So that's what we're trying to kind of lighten the load from a little bit, is that if you're only averaging 15 a day in Yellowstone County, you know, then, you know, if you have some that you want to send us, we can do that. And then you have that short-term stuff, you can still take it down to Yellowstone. And keep that cost a little more effective than what they're paying right now, so.
So with that, you'll see the difference in our revenue of 159,000 that we're requesting from PILT. And it's with our goal to fill the jail up as full as we can, and stay safe with that. But, and either lessen that commitment at the end of the year or not need it at all is what our goal is. And request, special request.
Brandon, where's the 159 request? The 159,000.
It's on the last page, the special request of my letter, and then you'll recognize it in the, I assume the interfund transfer, because that's where the memorial account comes from, was the PILT, so I did that down on the revenue. You'll see it looks like 209.55 or 555. And that's with the current,
Isn't that
50,000.
140?
383 of 3.
yeah,
Are you in the revenue?
Yeah, 210 minus 70
This one.
would be 140, right? Or did I make a,
We'll start out at 159, you put 50 on formation, that's 250, that's 209.
yeah.
The special request was for 159.55.
right, I don't see it there. If you round that up to 210 and you subtract 70 from budgeted, right?
I'm losing you at the 70. In the interfund transfer.
So the budgeted from fiscal year 19 is 69,000.
That's the money that transfers over, so that may be less because we're not gonna spend all that, memorial account again this year. So that was 19,000 that transferred over from the prior year. I'm expecting that to be, again, so that would lessen the 159 that I'm requesting. But that number, we went off of it as it being 50, not knowing what,
Oh, 50 even?
yeah, 50 even.
Okay, then I see it. Thank you.
Yep.
And that 19 is the same 19 that Corey requested.
So what you have in that account today, if you don't spend anything more out of it, is 69,000? Roughly, what do you have in it today?
We've spent some this year and we're spending some. When we created when we took our detective position and put it back to a deputy sheriff position, I still need, we have kind of a part-time detective, part-time patrol officer, and Sergeant Rouser's gonna fill those duties for the time being. We needed, him to still be in a patrol car, not just the detective's car. So with this new vehicle that we have ordered, I think it was back in January,
Yeah.
It's now in, and it's getting upfitted. We had to buy a new camera and a new radar, which is gonna be about, $9,000 roughly out of, and we're gonna use that Memorial Count equipment. So there's 20 budgeted that we haven't spent for that, and 9 will come out, so there'll be at least 11 if we don't spend anything else by July 1st. That will roll into that, plus some other line items that we haven't used or maxed out.
So you're balanced right now
We're,
with the 209,000, 160,000.
Not by much, but
by
by a little.
77 cents, I think.
Yeah, 77 cents. And part of that, like we discussed in that last meeting with Bill Garaki, was in an aspect, and I think we all talked about it, was that, or I know I did, was that this is something in regards to that pill. It's not necessarily, do I need you to infuse it into the system? I just need a commitment. And that's what I was looking at, is that, if things go well, and I can't predict what's gonna happen. And I don't know, I'm hoping we can visualize some things. I did talk with Mike today about the water saving systems for the jail, see if we can reduce. Right now, out of the $1,572 bill that was put out for water sewer between the road, the courthouse, sheriff's office, and the health department, $1,169.96 of that was the sheriff's office. So if there's a way to reduce that, especially on the inmate side of the house of things, through some of those water control devices, we can visualize a lesser amount that we're gonna pay there. I just don't know what that looks like, I don't know what the cost is. But in the long run, it's probably something we wanna be able to look at. So Mike's working on those numbers on that. But the fact of the matter is that we have months that are, the reason why I brought it down to the 30 inmates is we have months where we're down to 21 inmates, no matter what we do. It's just, we get them for a day and they're gone. And we'll get 5 or 6, next day they're gone. And so the times they're spending in detention centers is really getting limited. The other part of that is, like today, I think we had 8 or 9 of our own in there today. And, that changes as well. So keeping it at a number where we can, if we have a classification issue, that we have an open bed somewhere in there if we can. So if somebody's on a low security and they decide to do an assault, we can move them to a maximum security cell or a medium security cell or whatever it may be, because of their conduct behavior. That's the way that jail is supposed to operate, is that you're supposed to have the ability to move people to different classification systems based upon their conduct behavior. So bringing that down and hopefully visualizing some of this other stuff that Brandon spends a lot of time on. He's done a great job, and you would be amazed the amount of hours that he's put into trying to make this work. And he knows it better than I do. So, but like I said, we're just looking for a commitment. We're not, and if we don't need it, we need it. We need part of it. We don't need it. We don't need it. And life's gravy and life's good. But we just can't. I don't want to put all the eggs in one basket saying we're going to come up with $850,000 or $900,000 in jail revenue and not meet it. That's a problem. And I think right now, if we stay on the toe of the line as we are, we can keep doing what we're doing. We'll be, I think, fairly good, and that request would be very minimal at the end of the year. So if that's the way we do it, so. But it is 70 cents, so it's in the black. It's a big number. 70 cents, so.
Mike, can I make a comment?
Yes.
Given that they need a contingency fund if things don't work out as they have planned, I would also ask that the commission consider having a contingency fund that you start this year and add to next year, because you have a transition of 1, 2, 3 years. You don't really know what's going to happen, whether you can make it up or whether you're gonna have to go in some different direction, so. Contingency fund to cover that, what you know is coming, might be a good idea.
So the idea that I had with this thing was and I don't know if we're on the same page here, is to take this 150